it sounds like these borders are really what we call the promised borders. Okay? The borders that we'll learn about, Western Eretz Yisrael, will be in Bamidbar, in Parshat Mas'eh. There we'll see the western borders, namely from the Jordan River until the Mediterranean. Here, Hashem is promising what's called Greater Eretz Yisrael. Haaretz HaMuftachat. It's promised here at the culmination of the Brit. Before you walked in, we asked the question, why, if Hashem already promised Avram Avinu to give him this land, why now give it into the form of a Brit? And the answer maybe is that, look, when are you going to be taking the land of Israel? Hundreds of years from now. We were told the upcoming 400 years from Avram Avinu, 4 generations, some say 400 generations, from the time Yehuda goes down to Mitzrayim. When Yehuda and his brothers go down to Mitzrayim, from there 4 generations, there's Yehuda, there's Chetzron, Kalev, Yehuda, Peretz, Chetzron, Kalev. That's what Rashi brings the name of a midrash. That'll be the 4th generation coming back, which could be 400 years from now, from Avram Avinu to the nation of Israel. Since it's such a long time, God reinforces the promise in the form of a Brit. And furthermore, here you see at the end of chapter 16, God is giving here, Ken, a promise of what's called Greater Eretz Yisrael. When you get a promise in the formation of a Brit, then it has a lot of tokef, it has a lot of strength. It's not conditioned under any condition whatsoever. Okay? Notice this Greater Eretz Yisrael. We saw the borders. Now it says in verses 19 and 20, how many lands are mentioned? The lands of how many nations are mentioned? Can you count them? Etakeni, Vetaknizi, Vetakadmoni, Vetachiti, Vetaprizi, Vetarephaim, Vetamori, Vetakanani, Vagirgashi, Vetayivusi. How many do you count? 10. Why 10? The answer is this. 7 are on the west side of the Jordan River. And that's called Eretz Shivat Amim, the land of 7 Canaanite nations. Western Eretz Yisrael. The other 3 mentioned here, which are Keni, Knizi, and Kadmoni, are often explained as the following. That'll only be in the days of the Mashiach, those other 3. Bet, they are on the other side of the Jordan River, and they are the lands of Ammon, Moab, 2 children of Lot, and further south going down, Edom. They're not during regular times. Why not? As Moshe Rabbeinu says in his speech in the book of Dvarim, it's for them to inherit. They have a schut. You're not to go to war with them, not with Moab, not with Ammon, and not with Edom. You're not to capture their land. Give them respect. They too are the seed of Edom, the seed of Esav. Ammon and Moab, the seed of Lot, from whom the Mashiach later will come. So we see here in this revelation, the promise is of 10 lands, and many commentators explain that's the future. That's the future. You have a question regarding the map?
No, I was just thinking about the position of Edom. Edom is from Yam to Saudi Arabia.
Going further south. I'm not saying all the way to Saudi Arabia, but we're saying that this belongs to the days of the Mashiach. Until the days of the Mashiach don't come, we are not to be taking those lands on the other side. That's correct. Okay. I think now we can begin learning chapter Tet Zayin. And this is the continuation of a difficult challenge Avram Avinu is going through. He's promised several times Zerah. He'll have a seed. He'll have children. He very wants to have one. He thought it's impossible because according to the laws of nature, he and his wife are older in age and can no longer conceive. So here we see something very courageous, very submissive of Sarah. Let's read Perek Tet Zayin, and too as Avram we're going to see. Chapter 16. V'Sarai eshet Avram lo yaleda lo. Vela shivcha mitzrit ushma Hagar. What is a shifcha mitzrit, an Egyptian maidservant, doing in the home of Avram and Sarai? Hagar, Chazal explain. It's brought in the commentary of Rabbi Kitov on his commentary on the Chumash. Hagar was given to Sarai the day she was taken to Paro. Remember, she was abducted, taken to Paro's house about 10 years ago. And since then, this woman from the royalty of Mitzrayim has been serving Sarai faithfully. Sarai has no complaints. Okay? So too Hagar. Hagar, who was living a life of royalty, has now submitted herself 10 years ago, and she's now a shifcha. The term in the Chumash, shifcha, is a woman servant. She has no complaints, no ill feelings about being a maidservant in this house. Okay? What do you think? She'd rather be a princess in the house as beforehand in Mitzrayim? No, on the contrary. She's happy to merit to be in the house of a prince of God. Who is the prince of Hashem? Avram. And therefore, from the time that Paro abducted Sarai, she has been with him, with this couple all the time. Okay? And here she sees what a spiritual home it is, and she attaches herself. Hagar attaches herself to the graciousness, to the kindness of the house of Avram. So here we have a non-Hebrew, no one from the family. She comes from Cham. She's from the house of Paro, but she prefers to be a servant rather than being royalty. A servant to Avram rather than being royalty to Paro. Now, until now, we can sum up and say, as far as the haftacha of the zera, should I repeat? The haftacha of the zera, the promise to have a seed, to have a child. The first time, 3 times we've seen so far. God promised Avram and he said, I'll make you into a goy. The third time we learned, your zera will be like kochvei hashamayim. Now, more than 60 years, Sarai and Avram are married. Both are growing older. When will Sarai conceive? Can Hashem's words go empty-handed, God forbid, unfulfilled? Yes or no? No. Did Hashem forget? No. What is Sarai thinking? When I read Pasuk Bet, verse 2 of chapter 16, Vatomer Sarai el Avram, Hinena, behold, please, Atzarani Hashem miledet, Bona el shifchati, Ulai ibane mimena, Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai. What a dialogue here between Sarai and Avram. What is she thinking? Isn't she a righteous woman? Doesn't she believe? Of course she believes. But maybe Hashem is preventing me. Hashem atzarani Hashem iledet. Now, the custom, historically, during these days, is that a woman would have a right to give to her husband a handmaid in order to conceive, to bring children. And whose children will it be considered? The mistress, the Baalat Habayit. It'll be considered the children of the mistress, the Baalat Habayit, the owner of the home. Now, if you're Avram Avinu, and you've been with such a righteous woman like Sarai for such a long time, the actual offer you might think is what quite sad, isn't it? Okay? During the course of all the years, okay, Avram always protected himself not to mix seed with that of Cham. It's a cursed seed. Okay? We know that the entire race of Cham, which later is Egypt, is cursed rather than like blessed, rather than blessed like Avram. Does it make sense for Avram to lie down together with a woman who comes from Mitzrayim, from Cham, and unite? It's not a simple thing. And not only that, how is it that his wife, Sarai, can humble herself so much? step down to the state that in a moment we're going to read, her maidservant is ruling over her. But look at the idealism of Sarai. Sarai says, Ulai ibane mimena. Rashi says, Rashi's understanding of this, if you see it down below in verse 2, ibane mimena, I will be built from her. B'schut shachnis tzarati letoch beiti. What does Rashi mean? Rashi is suspecting what we're saying here, gentlemen. How could it be that Avram and Sarai can be built from the cursed seed of Cham of Mitzrayim? The answer is Rashi here, if we understand what's not yet written. The Maharal of Prague has a wonderful sefer on Rashi called Gur Aryeh, the lion's cub. Okay? It's a more philosophical, deep explanation on Rashi, the Maharal of Prague. The Maharal of Prague understands this Rashi, which is more or less a midrash, and says, not in fact, but through the efforts that Sarai is making right now, her goodwill, her effort, in showing that in order to establish a family, she's willing to bring into her house a rival. Wow, Hashem will see this. How much does she really want to have a child? And therefore the key word here is bischut. What does the word bischut mean? In the merit. Meaning, in that merit, that I want a child so much that I'll bring what? A maidservant from the cursed seed of Cham. Hashem will see how much I desire to have children from Avram Avinu. Now let's add in the missing words. In the merit that I'm bringing someone in that is even cursed, that I want a child so much, when Hashem sees that, what will He do? Who's also? That's it. That's what the Maharal explains, this Rashi. The Maharal says, in the merit, Hashem will see how much I desire to have children from Avram Avinu. Hashem will bless me, like you said, with kids. In other words, it's not that she's giving up to conceive, become pregnant. She's hoping. Ulai ibane mimena. The pshat is not like that. Usually he says, the fact that you have a child, it's mine. Because you're my maidservant. That's what many explain. But we're raising a deep question. Leo Kito raises a deep question on this. Isn't Mrs. Hagar cursed from Cham, from Mitzrayim? Yes. So here Rashi says, in this merit, she'll conceive. She'll have her own conception. Can Mrs. Sarah. And therefore, let's go on. Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai. Wow. That's humility, isn't it? But notice, do you see action here? It doesn't say, Vaya'as Cain. Avram did so. He adhered, he listened to Sarah. In other words, rather, no matter how much Avram desires to have children, he would not take Sarai, he would not take Hagar without Sarah's permission. Okay? For which sake does Avram take Hagar as a wife? For whose sake? The kol Sarai. I want it because I listen for the voice of my wife. Only what Avram wants is to give Sarai goodness, satisfaction by listening to her. When you get married and you have a wife, you try not to do other things when she's talking to you. You want to pay attention to your wife, to give her satisfaction, to give her honor. So that's what it says here. Avram gave her honor. What are the words? Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai. Okay? According to this, we understand that when Sarai said that God stopped me, Atzarani miledet, according to the Maharal's explanation, Atzar, la atzor, atzor. What does atzor mean? Stop. The stoppage of conception is only temporary. The inability of conceiving children is only temporary. Maybe in this merit that I'm doing this, I will have a child.
It's risky, though.
It's very risky. And This is the boldness. Look, they've been trying to have a child for 60 years, according to Chazal. And Avram takes her as what? Let's read the next pasuk. Pasuk Gimel. Vatikach Sarai. She's active here. Vatikach Sarai eshet Avram. She still loves Avram. Tell me, do I have to know that she is eshet Avram, or do we already know David is? Huh? Eshet Avram. We all know that she's eshet Avram. And rather, the love is still there. The care and tender relationship is still there. Vatikach Sarai eshet Avram et Hagar Mitzrit. Look, this is a hard thing. Hagar, we're told now a second time that she is a Mitzrit. And a second time that she is Shivchata, a maidservant. Wow. Psh. That's really impressive. She's from Chamim, Mitzrayim, cursed. She's a Shivcha. And Avram's taking her. When? Miketz Eser Shanim Leshevet Avram Be'eretz Canaan. Why do we need to know that this is after 10 years of living in Eretz Canaan? The Gemara talks about the laws of divorce. That if a man marries a woman and she is not have the ability to have a child after 10 years, then a husband can give her a get, can give her a divorce bill.
Did they get it from you?
This is one of the sources, yes. Even though it's pre-Sinai, but it was told to us at Sinai. Secondly, Avram is married to Sarai in Chutz La'aretz, let's say for 50 years. Now it's 10 years, sum total 60 years. Those years don't count? No, they don't count. Eretz Yisrael is where the real life is. You thought the real thing is Coca-Cola, right? Yeah. It's not true. The real thing is living in Eretz Yisrael. So 10 years of living here in Eretz Yisrael and no ability, you can give her a divorce. But Avram's not giving a divorce. He wants her. And now, after 10 years, Vatitein ota le'Avram Isha. What do you see the first word, Isha? What's inside the hay? A nikuda. It's a mapike. What is the Isha with the nikuda inside? Beautiful. Ish Shalah. Who's giving? Do you see it or not, David?
Yeah.
Yes? Isha, lowly Isha.
Sarah gives Avram to Hagar.
It says, Vatitenota le'Avram Isha. She's giving to Avram ha'ish Shalah,
Okay.
her husband, lo to him li'isha. What do you mean li'isha? What do you mean li'isha? Huh?
To be his wife.
So in the proper way, I think.
Marriage. Not a concubine, not a pilegesh, that you can just be with her with no contractual obligations. But now there is a marriage. Mazal Tov. Avram marries Hagar. It says it literally here. Okay? In other words, not as a pilegesh for having relations, as the Ramban brings here, but rather as a full wife. What is this to show us? Dignity and honor. Sarah is demonstrating dignity and honor to her husband. I'm willing to give you my shifcha as a wife. And maybe by doing this, as the Maral said, God will see this chut, this merit that I have, and maybe I will have a child. That's how we explained the Rashi 10 minutes ago, perhaps before we walked in. Okay? There are other explanations that, no, it means that she's going to have a child and it'll be considered Sarai's child. But I wanted to show you something very dear according to the Maharal of Prague. Pasuk Daled, Vayavo el Hagar vatar. The verb lavo is marital relations. As you know, modesty is one of the cornerstones, one of the fundamentals of Torah and God's language. And things that related to intimacy are covered up, are a special language is used. So here, Vayavo el Hagar, Mazal Tov vatar. She goes to the medical clinic, she takes a urine test, and now we know that she is Be'erayon. And now, something terrible happens. Vatere kiharata. When she saw that she is what? Pregnant. Vatekal givirta be'enah. Wow. From this pasuk itself, what are we understanding? The mishandling and Hagar despising and treating the ill treatment to Sarai. Isn't that terrible? Why is it so terrible? When we learned about this fearless character, Nechama Leibovich, one of her great articles on this section here, after we learned about this fearless character, Avram and Sarai, they're willing to do something unusual to bring children into the world. Their unselfishness, their respect for each other, and now Sarai emotionally, none of us is a woman, but emotionally to accept to bring another woman into the house is hard to digest. It's hard for some of you because we're not a woman. But just think about it. A woman to bring another woman into the house to have relations with Avram. So we see the unselfishness and the respect that they give for each other. Sarai overcomes any natural feelings of jealousy. Okay? She introduces the rival woman into her home. And what happens? Vatekal givirta be'eneha. The mistress, the Ba'alat Habayit, is despised in the eyes of Hagar. Wow. Question. Is it only because Sarai could not continue to remain on these lofty heights? Maybe she went down. She declined in her spiritual greatness. No. It's explained through Chazal that Hagar drew a conclusion, a very arrogant conclusion from her success. She's stinging, she's hurting the feelings of Sarah. She's giving her musar. She's giving her ethical explanations that you are lacking. Okay? Look at Rashi. Vateikal givirta be'eneha, one of the classic Rashis at the end of verse 4. Do you see it? Amara, Sarai zu ein sitra kigluya. I know the truth now. What's going on deep down in Sarah's heart, it doesn't look like she portrays. Okay? How does she portray her life? This is what Hagar is saying. Mara etzma kilu tzadeket. She shows as if she's a righteous woman. But you know what? Einat tzadeket. She's not a righteous woman. Do you understand what Hagar is saying? She's not a tzadeket. Why? Shelo zachta leharayon kol hashanim halalu. She never merited to be pregnant all these years. Vani, do you see this Rashi? Nitabarti mibia rishona. The first time we had relations, I became pregnant. She's not a tzaddiket. Do you see what's happening? Hagar is now mistreating, despising Sarah. Sarai was so idealistic. And now I know why I'm successful. Because Sarai's not really a tzaddiket. I am. And that's why I'm able to become pregnant. Why? She's giving her musar. Your ethical behavior is lacking. You understand this, David? What Rashi is explaining. What effect does this have on Sarah? Pasuk Vatomer Sarai el Avram Chamasi alecha. Sarai is making a very hard claim, a very bitter claim. She's protesting. She's bitter, she's protesting, and then we're going to see her demand. Chamasi alecha, how do they translate? Which word did they use here in these translations? Injustice. Why? Let's read. Anochi, she says to her husband, Natati shivchati bechekecha. I delivered my maidservant to your bosom. Vatera ki arata, when she saw that she's pregnant, va'ekal be'eneha. I became cheap, light-headed in her eyes. Yishpot Hashem beini uveinecha. In other words, as the Radak explains here in this very strong statement to and against Avram, I had good intentions, okay? That you would have children from her, according to the alternative explanation. And now what's happened? I'm despised in her eyes. And you, Avram, her claim is you have to read into the words. Avram, did Avram say anything ever since she's looking down upon Sarai? We don't see any claim here. Avram this is part of her claim. Why are you shutting up? Why don't you say something to her? Why are you not doing anything to her? Why don't you reprimand her or afflict her? Did you give me that bat over there? Thank you. So the question is, why didn't Avram say anything?
Maybe he's confused from Hagar.
He's what?
Maybe he's confused from Hagar.
Confused? Maybe. Here, as a reaction, and by the way, who is she asking to do justice? What does it say in the Pasuk? Hashem. And not a court here. Chazal don't look upon this too friendly, too good. If you have a claim against someone, go to the court. To the extent that Chazal say, I think Rashi brings it in, no, I don't see that Rashi brings it, that if you deliver your court case, instead of going to the court, you deliver it to God and let God take care of these matters, then you're going to be in trouble. Maybe I'll read you the actual source if I have it.
Well, there's no court out there.
You can find there are some righteous people that can deal with these matters. It's very hard for us to believe that Avram would be silent when his wife is being mocked. Okay? It's hard for us to understand. Maybe he did. The Torah didn't react to it. But the source says, there's a Gemara, Rosh Hashanah Tedzayin, Kol ha-moser din shel al chavero. If you transfer a case, instead of giving it to your chaver, you bring it to God, hu ne'enash tchila, then you're going to be punished first. We want you to file suit, to litigate here. Okay? Why is she saying, Yishpot Hashem beini uvenecha? Because she is sure, Sarah, that she's right. And she's sure that Hagar is wrong, the way she's acting. Don't ever be so certain. Let God will take care of you. No. You have a case? Bring the case right now. The truth is, later on, it's a Rashi, it's not here. Do you know who dies first? Sarai or Hagar? Sarai dies first. And only Hagar. The Gemara explains there in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, because she was so sure that she was right, she was bringing a court case. Yishpot Hashem, let God judge. Beini uveinecha, between us two. She shouldn't have done this. Avram hears her bitterness. Avram hears her hurt emotions. Pasuk Vav, verse 6, let's see it. What is Avram's reaction? Vayomer Avram el Sarai. Hine. A novelty. Look how he's reacting. Hine shivchatech biyadech. Even though that what she's been together with me, and she's like my wife, she's still your maidservant. That's the wording here. Hine shivchatech biyadech. Do you see the wording? Avram says boldly, even though we've been together, I and her, she's like my wife, but she's still shivchatech. Okay? Now, if you own a shivcha, you're allowed to do with anything you want to do with her. She's like your property, mamish, property. Okay? What does Avram offer? Asila hatov be'einayich. Do whatever you think is good in your eyes. So here, Avram is standing, he knows that his wife is righteous. He knows that his wife does not deserve this mockery, this lack of respect. And therefore, Avram is basically saying, you, my wife, you have the right to do with Hagar, rule over her. If she gets out of line, it's better to handle her, maybe with disciplinary actions. It's better that you do it than I do it. Why is Avram, what are we calling? Not rolling the ball to someone, what is it called in English? Yeah. Why is he handing the what is it called?
Rolling the ball in the
Yeah, why is he rolling the ball in Sarai's court? Why doesn't he take disciplinary action to her?
Because you don't want to deal with this problem. Apparently.
You're saying he wants to escape. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But I think it's different between a husband and wife and a mistress and a servant. What do you think?
Maybe he's like taking her, he's supporting her, like he's taking
Absolutely.
her defense.
Absolutely, to his defense. Remember, he's been married to her for 60 years. He knows that she's righteous. And he knows that God is not allowing them to have a child. So I think it's easier for Avram that you treat her the way you want to treat her as a mistress to a shivcha, a maidservant. Better, that's better than rather I would treat her from a husband to wife situation. Now, so here Avram is saying, take disciplinary actions if you think it's better. She's your shivcha. Now, Sarah, initially, she didn't want to personally interfere with action. She didn't want to, it's the husband and wife here. But prayed to Hashem. Chazal say that she prayed to God to help manage the situation. But now, after she's praying, and she now gets a green light from Avram, she gets a green light from Avram, okay, her husband, she now goes into action. And what does she do? 4 words at the end of the pasuk. V'te'aneha Sarai, v'tivrach mipaneha. Why? Apparently she pained her so much, okay, that Hagar cannot tolerate this. She flees. She runs away. The Torah doesn't bother to detail what she do, but we can understand that it's more than just verbally reprimanding her. It could be that, how many hours is Hagar working on a daily basis? 8 hours, 9 hours. Maybe she overworked her 11, 12 hours a day. Do you remember when you worked overtime? Were you tired?
Yes.
12 hours a day, maybe day after day, week after week, extra long hours. Or maybe she gave her a zetz. You know what a zetz is?
Yeah.
No, let's not. Should we demonstrate? No, thank you very much. So we don't know exactly, the Torah doesn't share with us. But it's clear that Hagar could no longer tolerate this, and therefore she fled. What brought this about? Remember the claim that Sarai says to Avram, Chamasi Alecha. You should have done justice here. You should have acted here. In other words, Sarai is charging her husband. She's like suing her husband verbally that he should have acted on the behalf. Okay? Now, I want to say one point that I learned from my dear father-in-law, Rav Shalom Horovitz, Shlita. He says, we don't have time to read, but Chazal here write criticism about Sarai. Is that clear to you? Chazal write criticism to Sarai that she went overboard. To us, it's not clearly written in the pasuk. It does say that he afflicted her. What exactly, we don't know. Okay? But the fact that we're about to read that a Malach Hashem, an angel of God, will send Hagar back to Sarai and tell her, Hit'ani tachat yadea, be afflicted under the hand of Sarai. What do you understand? Who sent the Malach Hashem, Michael?
Hashem.
Is it the will of Hashem that she be afflicted to Sarai? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No.
How do you understand that?
Yes.
Oh, you change your mind? We're about to read that the Malach Hashem will meet Hagar in the desert and say, Shuvi al givertech, go back to your geveret, your mistress, and be afflicted. So from when even though Chazal say that she went overboard, but we see that this is the Ratzon of Hashem. Hashem's Ratzon is that Hagar indeed be afflicted. That's what he wants. Let's read about it. Pasuk Zayin. Vayimtza'ah. Who's the subject of Pasuk Zayin?
Hagar.
No. Verse 7. Who's the subject?
Malach.
The Malach Hashem. Vayimtza'ah Malach Hashem al ein hamayim. We saw what is ayin, ein, right? The springs. We saw them, right? Last week. Vayimtza'ah Malach Hashem al ein hamayim b'midbar. HaMalach Hashem matzah ota. Miza ota? Hagar. Where? By a spring of water in the desert. Why do you think she's hanging out by the spring? She wants to drink water. She wants to live. When you're in a desert, the temperature's high. You need water. Al ha'ayin b'derech shore. It's a spring on the route that brings you to shore. Shore is in a direction, if I'm not mistaken, to Mitzrayim. She is en route to go back home. To show you how difficult it is for her. Until now, she loved being a maidservant to a prince of God, Avram Avinu and Sarai. But now she couldn't take it anymore. Leitraot, I'm going to Mitzrayim. Wow. Pasuk Chet Vayomar, Hagar, Shivchat Sarai, Emi Zavat, Va'ana Teilechi. Excuse me, do you work in programming?
No.
Don't you? Say yes.
Yes.
That's, I thought you did. Are Malachim programmed to do? Do they know exactly what they're doing?
Yeah.
Do they know that Mrs. Hagar is en route to Mitzrayim, and why she's in the desert? So why they bother asking? Emi Zevat, where are you coming from? V'ana Telechem, where are you going? Of course they know. So why bother asking? We see this several times in the Chumash. You don't want to surprise someone.
Scared.
You're scared them. So you open up with a question, what's doing, where you're coming from, where you're heading. They know. The Malach knows exactly where they're going. Okay? That's what Rashi brings in the name of Chazal. Okay? Now, but is it clear to us the significance of the place to where Hagar fled? It says Bederach Shor, Bederach LaMitzrayim. We can understand that if she's on the way back, that means Sarai afflicted her terribly, that Sarai feels, that's it. Now we see the pollution of what Mitzrayim is about, what the seed of Cham is about. It's now been revealed here in the union between she and Avram Avinu. There's no place for this. Where? In Avram Sarai's house. In other words, Hagar understood the message very well. We don't need this spiritual pollution, this mockery, this lack of respect in the house of Avram Avinu. So she afflicted her so much, maybe that's what she wanted to cause her, to go back to Mitzrayim. You understand what's happening here? We're putting two and two together. Let me just explain one more point. Some of the Mefarshim say that if pregnancy and birth in the house of Avram Avinu will be in the atmosphere of kfiyut tova, ungratefulness, okay? That's the most disgraceful attribute that we have in Judaism. Okay? You help me out. You're kind to me. You're helping me out. And not only do I not say thank you, but I don't even give you the time of day. That's kfiyut tova. That's denying the goodness. A Jew by definition, a Hebrew, wants to say todah, to be recognizing the good. And here, you see, this is the point of Cham. Cursed. They're not grateful. They're not gracious. This is what Sarai sees. Now that she's pregnant, this is the way she mocks me. Where's the gratefulness? We've been tending to her. We've been lodging her over, feeding her, drinking her. Nachon, she's a shivcha. But she decided to leave royalty of Mitzrayim and become a shivcha in the house of an Eved Hashem, a prince of God. Therefore, maybe Sarai thought, she justified to herself, no limits. There can't be limits the way I'm going to afflict her. Because the cruelty that will come out of the seed here, if she's going to be the mother of this child, and she's such a cruel person, that's not the way of Avram Avinu. Yes?
It says before, we learned that the bracha of Avram, all the seed will be blessed and look at the inheritance. Isn't Ishmael the seed?
Oh.
So they certainly have it.
So next week, the famous pasuk will say, "Ki bi Yitzchak yikarei lecha zara," quote unquote. In Yitzchak will be your seed and not Ishmael. In other words, this divine DNA, the skula elokit, the divine treasure, is coming from Adam HaRishon, 10 generations to Noach, through Terach, although as Rabbi Yehuda Levi explains in the Kuzari, the divine element in Terach is like it's dormant, it's like in slumber, it doesn't appear, but it's there. Okay? Are you very talented with your hands? Screwdriver, plier? Are you? Is someone right here? No? Neither am I. Let's just say you are. And you got it from me. Your father wasn't like this, but your grandfather was. It could be that in one generation, these special talents did not reveal itself, did not appear. Could it happen? Sure. The DNA, the divine DNA did not appear in Terach, did it? He's worshiping idols. But it appeared in Avram to serve God. Sarai is afraid that this seed that may come out now from Hagar, there'll be cursed people. We can't have cursed people in the house of Avram. But she thought it'll be the Zerah. God says later in Revelation, no. Ki bi Yitzchak, in the name of Yitzchak, and not Ishmael, yikarei lecha zara, shall your seed be called? Good question. My dear friends, the Malach is speaking to Hagar. What does she reply? Why am I here? Why am I on my way? Vatomer in the middle of verse 8, Mipnei Sarai giverti. Sarai, my mistress. Anochi borachat. Okay? Anochi borachat. So here, this expression, Malach Hashem, did you notice, appears here for the first time in verse 7. Second time, what we'll read in Pasuk Tet. And a third time, in which pasuk? Malach Hashem. Right. And go through these psukim and raise a very basic question. What question should you raise?
Why do they keep saying?
Why is the Torah keep on saying Vayomer la Malach Hashem? Vayomer Malach Hashem. Does it make sense? No. Why? So there's a famous midrash that explains why Malach Hashem appears here 3 times. Rashi brings the midrash to tell us that a separate angel for a separate teaching here.
The email is 4 times.
Which pasuk do you see?
No.
You see 4 times?
No, only 3.
Okay. Gentlemen, the instruction that the Malach Hashem gives in pasuk Tet. Vayomer la Malach Hashem, Shuvi el givertech. Wow. First of all, Hagar, to get a spiritual revelation, to meet an angel of God, did she pay taxes? I mean, why did she merit to get a spiritual revelation? So Chazal indeed see, this is the importance even of a maidservant of the patriarchs and the matriarchs. In the merit, the schut of the avot, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, 3 different angels reveal themselves to the shivcha. Okay? How many angels do you see a day? Don't show off this right now. Okay? Now the average revelation of a Malach Hashem to people, you don't even see 1 a day. And here she sees 3 different angels. Okay. The situation, we're at a fountain, we're at a spring of water. There, Hagar has found rest. She's restoring her body, restoring her soul. And here, the angel unequivocally categorizes Hagar. She is who? Geverte. You are under the Geveret. Your job is to be under a Geveret, a mistress. Okay? Hagar, you are Sarah's servant. In other words, Hagar does not receive her freedom. And she doesn't receive her freedom, we can see and learn here, for 3 reasons. It's going to be beautiful Divrei Torah at your Shabbos table. Number one, it says, Shuvi al givertech vitani tachat yedeh. You, the seed of Cham, Mitzrayim, according to law and judgment, she's obligated to be afflicting you. You deserve to be afflicted. You are a shivcha. You're still a shivcha. If you don't do the right things, boom, affliction. Interesting. Answer number two, reason number two. Now notice, does Hagar say anything after she's told to be afflicted? Check it. Second operation, verse Yud. Vayomer la malach Hashem, harba arbe et zarech, velo yisafer merov. Wow. In the second dibur, the second speech, it's kedai. It's worth it for Hagar to be where? To go back to Avram's house and be afflicted. Why? She's going to have an amazing future. Like the Malach says. This affliction will bring benefit to Hagar. You're going to have a gigantic family, a lot of seed. It'll be so much, you won't even be able to count them. Does Hagar react to the second angel? Does she say something in your Chumash? Huh? No. Pasuk Yud Aleph, verse 11. Being that Hagar does not react to the voice of the Malach. Okay? Now, let's see what the Malach promises that the Malach didn't promise in the form of Pasuk. Okay? Vayomer la Malach Hashem hinach hara violadit bein. You are what? You're going to be pregnant. Excuse me. Isn't she pregnant?
Yeah, she's pregnant.
So what, is he the doctor, the Malach? He's telling you you're pregnant? We learned that she's pregnant. So because of this question, Chazal say that she miscarried. And then you will become pregnant. Hinachara, you'll be pregnant. This is a promise that she will be pregnant. Okay? She. Hagar, she was pregnant, wasn't she? So why does the Torah bother say, Hinachara, you'll be pregnant?
I thought that the difference was like because the son could be a son or a doctor. So he's saying he's revealing the gender of the.
But the fact that there's no chidush in saying that Hinach hara. We know that she is hara. Okay? So that Chazal asked that simple question. Wasn't Hara already pregnant? From here we learned that she had a miscarriage. But you're going to be pregnant again. And what? And give birth to a boy. Vikarat shemo Ishmael. Ki shama Hashem elonech. Your son will depict the affliction, the pain that you're going to receive from Sarai. We'll learn a moment about what character traits. What's unusual about this calling of the name, gentlemen? Do you remember the last chapter of Parshat Lech-Lecha, the Parsha of Brit Milah? Yes or no? How old is Avram Avinu when he does a Brit Milah?
90?
No, 199. Does Avram only do a Brit Milah for himself?
No.
Look at the end of the Parsha. Who does he do it?
He do it for everyone in his house.
Very good. Including?
Ishmael.
How old is Ishmael?
12 years old, I guess.
13 years old.
13 years old.
He had a bar mitzvah that day.
Never.
What's unusual? This is, I think, the only time we see in the Chumash a name calling before the Brit. A name calling before the Brit. Until the Brit happens, we call him baby or tinok.
Or bleaching.
We don't use the word bli shem. We call him baby or tinok. Here, God prophesizes through the Malach Hashem, the angel of God, the name called Ishmael, because God hears your affliction. So here it is. But what type of person will this baby be? Pasuk Yud Bet, verse 12. Huye pera adam. Wow. Yadov hakol, v'yad kol bo, v'al pnei chol echav yishkon. What does it mean, Pera Adam? Right now, this appearance is in the wilderness. Would you please tell me the first part of the word wilderness? In English. Wild. Wild, exactly. Pera Adam, a man of the wilderness, is a wild man. A man that doesn't have restraints. A man that doesn't have limits. Everything is open in the desert. There are no laws. You take whatever you want. And the stronger, he is the one that exists. I heard this several times from Rav Dov Lior. We're talking about Ishmael, okay? We're talking about a lot of the Muslim people that come out of Ishmael. Pera Adam. Pera is, in this case, wild, one of the meanings. Your Hebrew is very good, David Hayes. Would you please tell us, in Hebrew, a good man?
A good man, Ishmael.
Yafa. A strong table.
Shulchan Chazak.
Very nice. A lovely book.
Why is it called Shulchan Chazak, not Chazakah?
Because it's masculine. One more. A good book.
Sefer Tov.
What do you notice as far as adjective and noun in Hebrew?
They're reversed.
In Hebrew, what comes first?
Adjective.
The noun comes first. The noun comes first and the adjective comes afterwards. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yafeh. Adam Nechmad, Shulchan Tov, Mi'il Yafeh. The noun first and the adjective afterwards. Shavua Tov. Excellent. What's here about the character trait of Ishmael?
First the
First is adjective, then the noun.
First the adjective. Why? Why? It's the only place you find it, I think. So Rav Dov Lior, Shlita, former chief rabbi of Kiryat Arba Chevron for decades, he would say, because that is the essence of this person, Ishmael, and what will come out of Ishmael. They don't restrain themselves. It's hard for them to live under a set of laws, organized life. They do anything and everything spontaneously. They're wild. They like hunting and taking. And it says, Yado Bakol, his hands is in everywhere. He steals. Viad Kolbo, and as a result, everyone hates him. Everyone wants to take an act against him.
Even the Christians.
No, we're talking here only about Ishmael. He's a desert man.
He took two of his daughters.
But said we're not talking strictly about Ishmael. He's going to make quarrels with everyone. Okay? He's going to be stealing from everyone. So here it says, Pera Adam, he's a lawless person, he's irresponsible, and therefore everything is hefker towards him. So here we notice in summing up 3 special blessings Hagar gets about that it's kedai for her to return, Aleph, to be a shivchan, be afflicted. Number 2, a promise, of a future. And number 3, she's pregnant, she'll be pregnant again, and she'll have a child called Ishmael. The place where this happens, as we're coming to the end of the chapter, Al Kain Karala Be'er, there's a name calling of this well of water, Be'er Lachai Ro'i. Be'er Lachai Ro'i. What does that mean? Be'er Lachai Ro'i.
the well that where he see.
Be'er Lachai Ro'i, that sees me. Ro'i. A be'er that sees me. Meaning all the time that I live. Who's doing the name calling? Does it say? It's written here in the masculine, isn't it? Maybe on behalf of Hagar, the malach is calling the place. It could be. It's interesting. Did I bring who's calling? The Radak says Kara Korei. Whoever's calling it is calling it this name. It says by you what?
It says in the beginning of the it says Vatikra Shem Hashem. So she called to Hashem. And then in the conversation.
Vatikra Shem Hashem Adover Elata El Roi. Ki amra gam lo re'iti acharei ro'i. So maybe a God called it after what she called God. Be'er l'chai ro'i. Gentlemen, if I'm not mistaken, in the Parsha, when we learn that Avram Avinu sends out his special servant hundreds of kilometers away to get a shidduch, and then on the way back months later apparently, or who knows when, weeks later, Yitzchak is praying in the field, quote, Vayitze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh. It's the same place, Be'er l'chai ro'i. We'll learn it in the next Parsha, wherever it happens. Apparently, this place is a place of revelation to God in the desert. And there's water there, there's a flow there, there's wealth there. And there is Yitzchak Avinu praying and praying for shidduch. And now he sees the Eved coming from a distance with a young girl on the camel. And he was praying. I don't know if he was a Breslover or, screaming out, Abba, or this or that. But he's apparently praying, according to the Midrash, with his hands casted forward out. When she saw that from a distance, where she comes from, Aram Naraim, they don't pray that way, place of idolatry. What happened to the girl on the donkey, on the camel? What happened to
Ran
her?
away back
No, she didn't run away.
She got.
She fell. She fell off atipol me'ala gamal. It could be, the Netziv of Volozhin says, that when she saw the spirituality of Yitzchak Avinu in this place, it's a place of revelation of God. It's a very holy place. Be'er l'chai ro'i. That's where Hagar sees 3 different malachim. Yes. So she flipped out. It was like, wow, it was amazing. So we learned today a very unique section of the relation between Sarai, Avram Avinu, and Hagar, and the coming of Ishmael out of a tremendous crisis situation where they're trying to do anything and everything to bring a child into the world. And maybe Sarai goes overboard afflicting her after she's mocked, which is a wrong thing. But Hashem says, Ishmael, your role, you Hagar, you deserve to be under the control of Avram and Sarai. We too, when we are having other nations living amongst us or other entities living amongst us, everyone has to know Am Yisrael is the Balabayit over the land of Israel. If they want to stay here with due respect, fantastic. Bezrat Hashem. Shall we get to those days sooner in our time? Bezrat Hashem. Shakoach, gentlemen. Have a Shabbat.